This episode brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer through TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com.
It's My Right Stuff with your host, Grammy Award-winning record producer and inventor, Toby Wright. My Right Stuff is brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com. And I'm your announcer, Grinnin' Barrett. Here's Toby.
Hey, I'm Lord Toby Wright, and this is My Right Stuff News. Welcome to My Right Stuff News. In music news, Black Label Society released a new record called Doom Crew Incorporated. The 12-track album is both a tribute to the band's first to bleed, last to leave road crew, and a salute to the Legion whose support rivals that of the KISS Army. It'll be available on all digital platforms, CD, vinyl, plus a deluxe edition. The legendary hard rock band Deep Purple will be releasing what is to be their first album of cover songs. Fleetwood Mac, Bob Dylan, Ray Charles, and Cream are some of the artists that are covered on this release coming out today, November 26th. Well, Jason Isbell in the 400 unit released Georgia Blue. The album marking his 8th overall, including 5 LPs at the helm of the 400 unit, is also Isbell's first covers album. It's dedicated to songs by bands, artists, and musicians from the American state of Georgia. Well, in film and TV, the Madrigals are an extraordinary family who live hidden in the mountains of Colombia in a charmed place called Encanto. The magic of the Encanto has blessed every child in the family with a unique gift. Every child except Mirabelle. Well, Disney's Encanto is in theaters now. Bet the kids would love that for the holidays. Well, from director Ridley Scott comes House of Gucci, when Patrizia Reggiani, an outsider from humble beginnings, marries into the Gucci family, her unbridled ambition begins to unravel the family legacy and triggers a reckless spiral of betrayal, decadence, revenge, and ultimately murder. Starring Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Jared Leto, Jeremy Irons, Selma Hayek, and Al Pacino. And that's in theaters now. Take a date. Marvel's Hawkeye premieres on Disney+. Jeremy Renner reprises his role as Clint Barton from the film series, with Haley Steinfeld joining him as Kate Bishop. And The Beatles Get Back is a documentary series directed and produced by Peter Jackson. It covers the making of the Beatles' 1970 album Let It Be, which had the working title of Get Back, and it premieres this weekend on Disney. School of Chocolate premieres on Netflix. A world-renowned French chocolatier, Amaury Gouchon, mentors 8 students who compete for a prize package that includes a career-changing opportunity. Well, in the world of sports, Premier League, first place Chelsea play Man United. Second place Manchester City play fourth place West Ham, and Liverpool play Southampton. Some good games there. Well, in tennis, the Davis Cup starts this week, and the finals taking place next week. The Davis Cup is a premier international team event in men's tennis, and it's run by the International Tennis Federation and is contested annually between teams from competing countries from around the world in a knockout format. That sounds really exciting. If your resting heart rate is 3 beats per minute. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Well, in audio gear and tech, we got some Apple news. The iMac and the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips unfortunately will not be available until March or April of 22. The M1 chips are currently available for the MacBook Pro series of laptops. Well, Aptera is the world's first solar electric vehicle that requires no charging for most daily use, giving you the freedom to do more with less impact on the planet. Aptera was created from the ground up with one purpose in mind: energy efficiency. Their unique shape allows Aptera to slip through the air using 30% less energy, travel up to 1,000 miles on a single charge, and capable of up to 40 miles of solar-powered driving a day. It's capable of up to 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. We'll expect deliveries of this vehicle later in the new year. You can reserve your Aptera here, now. And if you'd like to have your gear tested by a trusted professional, please contact media at myrightstuff.com. Well, I hope you've had a fabulous Thanksgiving. Be sure to check out all the Black Friday deals today. And that's all the news that's making the news here on My Right Stuff, November 26th. And now over to you, my lord. Oh, hey, Toby. Well, thank you very much. Welcome back to My Right Stuff, which is a film, TV, sports, music, adventure, and inspirational lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright, and today is the 5th episode of our 6-week health and wellness series. We kicked off the series with life coach Kimberly Cabot, followed by integrative cardiologist Dr. Jack Wilson, holistic nutritionist Ashley Swanson, and Organic Crush owner Michelle Walrath. And saving the best for last, a spiritual, inspirational, and community guidance leader, Veronica Conway, will be next week. Well, today we'll be focusing on one of the most important elements of your health, sleep. And you'll literally die without it before food and water, but we can't let that happen, right? So today we're bringing back my dear friend, Mistress Carrie, who will be interviewing Jason Sikowski and myself about TAUMMHOMS, the natural sleep remedy and sound healing portal streaming globally at TAUMMHOMS.com. Well, besides being my dear friend and all-around amazing person, Mistress Carrie is a rock DJ radio personality who started and grew her career for decades on the notable radio station WAAF in Boston. She now hosts her own weekly podcast, which is available on all digital streaming outlets worldwide. Join her for Cocktails in the War Room every Tuesday night live on Facebook at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And don't miss SitRep to get your daily report of entertainment headlines, industry info, and everything rock. All in 5 minutes. That's right. But before I bring her on, I want to thank you, all of our supporters who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. Please keep spreading the word, my friends. We really, really do appreciate it. And be sure to click on our show notes below to follow our link tree to a full list of all the channels we're streaming on, as well as all of our sites and social media platforms. And if you'd like to donate to My Right Stuff, please follow our support link. Every single dollar helps support My Right Stuff crew who make all this possible. And of course, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as the podcast channel of your choice so you never, ever miss a single episode. And after this episode, please head on over to myrightstuff.com, click on the store tab to pick up some snazzy merch for those lovely bodies. Well, now it's time to bring on my dear friend, Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, how are you today?
What's going on, guys?
Just hanging out, man.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Today's a very special edition of My Right Stuff, and Mistress Carrie is going to interview Jason Sikowski and myself about our sleep sounds, which is called TAUMMHOMS.
Thanks for having me back. Am I like one of the first people that's been on the show twice now?
The only one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got a ton of feedback about the show we did last time, and people said it was really cool. So I was psyched that you asked me to come back.
Awesome. Well, I love working with you. It's a fabulous adventure every time.
When we talked last time, we talked a lot about your career and how you and I met, and you had touched on TAUMMHOMS, and we were like, you know what? I think that's just going to take its own episode to be able to focus on it, because it's something that I'm so curious about and yet so ignorant about at the same time. And so the fact that you and Jason have come up with this thing that's so interesting to me, and that I feel like is on the forefront of a lot of this new research and a lot of stuff that's going on in medicine right now. I was like, yes, can we talk about this? So thank you for saying yes.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to do it, for sure.
if anybody heard the other episode, obviously they know that Toby and I go way back. But Jason, you and I know each other from music as well. Like, how many years has it been? It's over 20, right?
Probably right at 20 years from Theory of a Dead Man forward. So it's been a long time.
I just think it's hilarious that we have all come from this kind of music, rock and roll background. And you've taken the technology stuff that you are experts at when it comes to recording, and you've turned it into something that when we saw each other in Nashville a few months ago and sat down and talked about TAUMMHOMS, I instantly wanted to know everything because I am the primary caregiver of my mom who has dementia. And Alzheimer's runs in my family. And so as you were talking about TAUMMHOMS, I was like, hold on a second. I don't even know if I'm smart enough to understand what's going on. So you'll have to pardon me if I ask you simplified questions, because I don't want to lose anybody when we start talking about complex technology terms and definitions of things and research, because you guys have been working on this for years.
Right. Correct. I've been doing it since 2007 or 2008.
And is it fair to say that this all started because of your car accident? That's where it all began for you, right, Toby?
Yeah. I was in a car accident around Thanksgiving, coming back from a meeting at a record company, and got smashed in both sides, or, front and back. And ended up with major nerve damage to the right side of my body. And, my quest to heal, because I saw a bunch of, regular doctors and acupuncturists and massage therapists and so on and so forth. And it, I wasn't getting any better. I was still numb on the whole right side of my body. And so I took to the internet at that point and, figured I'd read and stuff. So, whatever. And so I read about this thing called sound healing, which I'd never heard about before. And, from there, I did a bunch of research, went into a studio that I had in Woodland Hills and, started making these tonalities. And lo and behold, a couple of them have helped me. And, I can feel everything on the right side of my body now. And, the only thing that I notice about, what's happened to me is that my right eye will droop when I'm on the computer for too long. So I don't know if that's just old age or if that's a product of, whatever.
Jason, this is something that Toby and I have in common, because some people may or may not know that I was born with a tethered spinal cord. And so Toby and I have joked in the past that we would make an unbelievable potato sack race team, because he's got nerve damage on the right side and my nerve damage is on the left side. So if we could put our damaged sides together, we would be unstoppable.
That's right.
I'll be your coach.
But when you have nerve damage, it's really hard to explain to someone that doesn't have nerve damage. Jason, do you have any kind of experience with this personally at all?
No, I've never broken anything, never really gotten any sort of crazy things circling the planet somehow.
You've traveled a lot. And especially with as funny as Spinal Tap is over the years, because Spinal Tap moments literally happen to everyone. That movie holds up. You've never had any kind of strange injury with all the touring and traveling you've done?
No, I haven't. Wow. I've been around a lot of stuff where people have had strange things happen. But, back then we just drank a lot, and I think that was our secret power.
Toby, isn't it amazing when it comes to nerve damage that it is so hard to explain, and I'm fascinated by things like phantom pain for people that have a limb amputated and yet they still feel the pain of that limb, or the numbness, or everyone has had the experience of waking up having slept on their arm and their arm feels dead or it's cold and you get those crazy pins and needles. Is that what the nerve damage felt like for you after you were recovering?
When I was recovering, yeah. I started feeling, and, that pins and needles, like you said, that started coming back, right? But it wasn't constant, like, if you slept on your arm or whatever, and then you go like, oh man, don't touch me. Cause it's not painful, but it's almost painful. Right.
Yeah.
So it was a different kind of, all of a sudden I'd go, wow, I can feel my arm, and I would touch my forearm or something. I go, oh, okay, I can feel that really cool now, and it would all of a sudden appear, like I didn't notice it really coming back. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that, dead feeling to live. It was kind of like a gradual thing that just happened.
When you say things like sound healing, I know that there are going to be people that hear that and kind of roll their eyes and go, oh, okay, here we go. And there's obviously a lot of skepticism when it comes to anything science-based or medically based, especially now in the news, that everyone is a Googling scientist. But you are, in fact, a sound engineer. This is what you do, and you're an expert in this. So can you break down the concept behind sound healing and kind of explain what that is?
I can. So basically, it's about vibration. Everything in the universe has a vibratory status, basically. And sound healing then takes frequencies that you're akin to and just kind of, gets your body in tune, if you will. Okay. So, there's many examples of that, out in nature, for instance, but, the one thing that I've found in my studies, if you will, is the fact that, since your brain just it wants to sync up, right? It wants to sync to your environment at all times. And if you put some sound into your ears that is akin to, something that should be going on in your body, but isn't, then your brain just goes, hey, maybe we should make that happen. And so when that happens, your brain then moves your body toward what it takes to heal. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. I mean, we're going to talk about some pretty complex things, and I want to be able to break it down in layman's terms as much as possible. Your brain controls everything and is the nerve center and kind of control center for your body. And there's a lot of speculation about how that communication in your brain happens, because even though we know so much about our own bodies, we still don't know everything about the brain. There's a lot of unanswered questions. And one of the biggest questions is, what is sleep for? What is its purpose? Why do we do it? We're only alive for X number of years, and we are supposed to spend a third of it unconscious. I think it was Thomas Edison who slept like 2 hours a night and said it was a waste of time or whatever. But I'm not going to argue with Thomas Edison, but I definitely need more than 2 hours of sleep. And we don't understand how it works. And when it comes to sound healing and the vibrations and the frequencies that you're talking about, can you give me some examples of frequencies in nature to kind of get people to understand the basics of what you're talking about?
Yeah. So let's go to the ocean. Like most, water sounds on the planet are very healing and very cathartic, right? If you go to the beach and you're just laying on the beach and you're hearing the ocean, you're going to fall asleep probably, right? Because it's a very monotonous tone. It's, that wave coming in, going out, that's very relaxing. The same with rain. Right. Rain is a very relaxing type thing. And, on rainy days, I just want to curl up and go to sleep, and it's because of that those types of things in nature help us, to get that sleep. And yes, you do need at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep, Carrie.
I didn't say it. I heard it was Thomas Edison. It was a quote. And like I said, I'm not going to argue with Thomas Edison, but anybody that's ever seen me with 2 hours of sleep knows it's no bueno.
We run the other way.
Yeah, you should. So when it comes to something as soothing, I think most people can agree that when they go to the beach or they hear rain, there are just those certain sounds that are very relaxing. but why is it relaxing? Can you talk about the frequencies of like the water and what it actually is that makes it so relaxing?
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't really have the answer to the frequency question. I think it's a matter of just, what the body and what Mother Nature intended for us humans here on the planet, right? The wind sometimes isn't very relaxing, for instance, but rain always to me is very relaxing, and so is the ocean. Waterfalls can be very relaxing as well. It's kind of a white noisy kind of a thing, which involves a lot of frequencies. Like there's white noise and pink noise and all that kind of stuff, which is very technically, probably above where we want to go right now. But like the static on your television, when the station goes off the air and you have that shh type of sound, that's what they call white noise. And that involves like a lot of different frequencies, maybe 10,000 of them or so. It just depends on, which noises we're speaking of or tonalities, I should call them, and how they affect the brain, right? Because your brain does want to sync all the time to your environment, like I explained earlier.
So sound healing is not a new concept. Humans have been doing this without even really understanding how it works for, I guess, as long as humans have been around. What I think of when you talk about it are like those sound bowls that I see people using like on TikTok.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of thing we're talking about, right?
Kind of, yeah. The sound bowls are, the Tibetan sound bowls basically are just a big piece of copper formed and hammered out into a certain frequency. And then they'll run their wooden, I don't know what the technical term is for it, but they run that around the rim and it kind of sings. And then they meditate and they repeat that tonality. That's where Om came from, right? So you hear a bunch of chanting and things like that is Om. And so that's usually the frequency of the bowl that they're circling. And with that kind of promotes, a center in your body, if you will. And for all your chakra, it kind of aligns them. And if you're into meditation at all, you know exactly what I'm speaking of.
So when you are searching for answers with your own area of expertise after your car accident and you start looking into sound healing, what were some of the first things that you learned in the research that you were doing that were surprising to you about the concept of it?
That sound could heal, first of all. I had no clue before that. Being in the studio and recording all these rock bands and, getting Grammys and all that and making amazing recordings didn't really even hold a candle to what I learned, when I started going down this rabbit hole. Right. And I think it was really important to know that, it's not all frequencies that can help you heal. There's specific ones that are meant to do certain things to your body, right? I'm not going to name them all because there's so many different ones, but you can have things that help anxiety and depression and stress management and PTSD and depression and pain management, which is a big one. Those are all different frequencies that can help your body. And, especially the depression and anxiety bit, I work a lot with that with TAUMMHOMS, because in your sleep, you can, it's the best time to reach your subconscious.
Can you explain the difference between frequency and decibels? Because I think some people may think that a higher frequency means it's louder. And those are two totally different things. So when you talk about frequency, what exactly are you talking about? Frequency
is cycles per second. So I'll get really technical for a second. So it's called the sine wave. And there's a line that goes through let's just have an imaginary line right here. So the sine wave goes down under the line, and it comes up above the line, to the same amplitude or the same distance, right, from that line, and then goes back down and keeps going, right? And that's a pure tone. Let's use 1,000 hertz as our reference. And so at 1,000 hertz, that's 1,000 cycles per second. Okay, hertz is just an abbreviation for cycles per second. Okay, that's what frequencies are. So there's all kinds of frequencies. Your hearing is from 20 hertz all the way to 20,000 hertz as a perfect human. Now, the only perfect humans on the planet are babies. I can't hear that high. You can't hear that high.
We work in rock and roll. Our hearing is not perfect anymore.
No, not at all. And that's unfortunate because, we're missing a lot of, some of the really good things way up above, but that's okay because, we get the essence of it and we still love it. So that's what a frequency is. Now, a decibel is a measure of loudness. Right. I mentioned amplitude. That's also loudness. It's another name for loudness. But a decibel, they measure rock concerts at 120 dB and airplanes taking off. And the threshold of pain for your hearing is 120 dB. So if something is that loud and you're standing right next to it, you're going to be in pain. Literally, like, and you're going to reach. And, we've all had those experiences with, 4th of July with explosions or, just being in an AC/DC concert makes you go, because it's so friggin' loud. So that's the difference between a frequency and a decibel.
So when you're born with perfect hearing and you can hear between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz, 20 hertz is extreme low end or extreme high end?
Extreme low end.
Okay.
So the lower you get, like 20 hertz, 25 hertz, 30 hertz, 40 hertz, that's all the real bass drum, really low end driven type sounds. The higher number is a higher frequency, and that's the pitch is higher and higher and higher. So
there are low end tones below 20 hertz that we can't hear. But my assumption would be that you could physically feel them.
Earthquakes. Okay. Earthquakes are, they might be, let's say we have an earthquake that's, 5 miles under the ground, and it could be, reproducing 4.3 hertz, let's just say. Because what happens is the tectonic plate shifted, and that rumble is that, and then it starts shaking, and we start holding on, and those are things we can't hear, but we can feel them. And on the other end, when you're talking about the high end that a human perfect ear can hear at 20,000 hertz, right, my assumption would be that a dog whistle is a higher frequency, and so we can't hear that with our ears. But obviously dogs can. Oh, yeah. Yeah, dogs, cats, all of the animals have much higher hearing, horses especially, too, believe it or not. They can hear up to about 45, I think. So, yeah, it's incredible, the range of hearing and the lack of range in hearing in humans. And so those cycles per second, when you're talking about a 20,000 hertz sound, that is it going up and down, up and down, up and down ridiculously fast as opposed to a low end 20 hertz low end sound. Correct. And it also, it's about distance as well. So, when you're sitting at a stoplight and a car, 4 cars behind you pulls up with some, kick-ass music going, and you can hear it all the way at the front of the line, that's your low-end rumble, right? And it just travels through things. Those higher frequencies, they get stopped by all kinds of, things in the way, a car window, a door, a wall, a ceiling, whatever. And, like if you're in your house or you live in an apartment, you can hear your neighbors because what you mostly hear is their low frequencies. And those things let's run through everything that we know of. So when you're doing this research on sound healing, and obviously as a sound engineer and producer, when you're recording a rock band, Right.
These frequencies, these low end frequencies of the bass and the bass drum, the high end frequencies of the cymbal crashes and that shredding Eddie Van Halen high note in the solo.
Right.
You're mixing that music to get it all balanced in the right way so that the louder, say, low end stuff doesn't drown out some of the more delicate high end frequencies in the music.
Right.
And that's the same kind of concept that you're taking into these tonalities that you make for tomes.
That's correct. Very correct.
So
but I
when
do
you
use a lot of high frequencies. But, then I get into something that's called binaural beats, which is, something that is created within your head with headphones. And we can talk about that a little later.
So when you're looking into all of this sound healing and you're surprised at the concept that it even is a thing and that it actually works, take me through your research and explain to me what it is that these different hertz can do when it comes to sound healing. Meaning, what do high end frequencies do as opposed to lower end frequencies?
So, like I explained earlier, your brain wants to sync to your environment at all times, right? And so with the frequencies, you might want to create, let's say, 3.1 hertz, because 3.1 is a frequency that will help your, let's say, lungs, for instance. Okay. And so I'm making a tonality that is for asthma users, for instance, right? And so I want to have something in there that's going to help them, help their lungs heal, right? And so I know that, 3.1 is one of those frequencies, right? Due to research. And so when I try to create 3.1 hertz, I can use an oscillator, which is something that generates all these, pure tones and sine waves, right? You set it to, 3.2 and print it, right? Well, it's not that easy, because what happens is you can't hear that. So you don't know how loud it is, and you end up blowing up speakers when you can't hear something.
3.2 hertz is very, very low.
Super, super low. And it'll, since you can't hear it, it's going to blow stuff up if you try to hear it, right? You have so much power on the low end that you have to push to even make a speaker move, right? The top end, high frequencies take little to no power at all to come through because they're so high. So one of the things that happens is that if I want to use this 3.2 hertz, that I have to somehow create it. Right. So that's where the binaural beats comes in. If I put 100 hertz in one ear and I put 103.5 in the other ear, right? What happens when you're wearing headphones is that you'll hear both of those tonalities. You'll also hear a third one in the middle, which kind of will have a beating to it, right? That's the binaural beat. And so what that's doing is that is entraining your brain, if you will, to 3.2 hertz. It's now hearing the 100 hertz and the 103, but it's also hearing 3.2, right? And so when you hear that, your brain says, what am I going to do with that? Oh, that's good for the lungs. I'll store that, and we'll use that, so on and so forth. And it goes into your subconscious, basically.
Binaural's not just a Pearl Jam album.
No.
So
it's a science that's been around for a long time.
Who does this research to find out that 3.2 hertz is, say, good for your lungs? Like, where does this research come from, and where did you find it? So
there was a man named Dr. Rife back in the turn of the 1800s to 1900s. He built a machine, and back then they were into color therapy. So a red light, for instance, would evoke a certain, you could heal certain diseases with red light and blue light and so on and so forth. And that led him into sound. He's like, whoa, well, if we can do this with light, what about sound as well? So he had this machine that kind of swept the frequencies. And I've read a lot about this stuff. I wish I had one of those machines, but there's only one in existence that's left, and it's in the Smithsonian. So
you're not getting that one.
I don't think I am, no matter how much I pay for it. So when he was doing his research, I took, his findings and then applied them to today. Right. Because, he wrote all this stuff down. There's literally thousands of pages of what Dr. Reif did. And, in the end, they came in and destroyed his machines and said, go away, little boy. And that was Big Pharma that did that.
So as you start searching for your own kind of treatment for this nerve damage that you got in your car accident, and you stumble on this concept of sound healing and these tones, and you start treating yourself with this stuff, what was happening to you?
Sleep. A lot of sleep. I found myself sleeping a lot, and I didn't understand why at first. And I started delving into the sleep part of it. And that's when I started making tonalities for sleep and including things in those sleep tonalities. I was having a bit of anxiety and depression over my illness or my injury. And so I included some of those frequencies in those tonalities as well. And I found that if I applied it while sleeping, that it helped me tremendously. Like throughout the day, I couldn't really sit and meditate all day, right? I lead a very active lifestyle. I have a lot of stuff going on. And so, when I sleep, I'm in one position, one place for, hopefully 8 hours. Right. And so I was able to, I put it, on a DVD and a CD and put it in a ghetto blaster at that point and put it on repeat. And, I just had it going all night long. And I found that, like I said, my symptoms started to lessen. And all of a sudden I was just like, oh, wow, I can feel my forearm. That feels cool. Right on. Hey, honey. And she'd come over with her nails and go like that. And I would be like, ooh, that feels great. You can feel that? I was like, yeah. So, just like really cool little advancements happened. And so then, unfortunately, she and I got divorced. I moved to Nashville where I met Jay. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, take a listen to this stuff. And he took a listen to this stuff and said, hey, there's something really here.
So, Jay, when you have Toby coming to you with this sound healing concept, was this anything that you had been familiar with before that?
No, not at all. It was just, we were talking about producer contracts and that kind of thing. This was kind of like the little afterthought thing. Oh, by the way, I have something here that's going to take you and spend all this time for the next 10, 11 years before we can actually do something with it kind of idea. So no, I didn't have any, but to me it was fascinating, right? Because this is before the Spotify's, the Netflix, the streaming part. One of our ideas was like, well, what are we going to do with this? And then I was like, well, do we put it on one of those overnight commercials and mail you 42 DVDs with all this stuff?
For a penny.
For a penny, like Columbia House kind of thing. Yeah. But then,
right.
Our one friend, of course, took Napster to task. And then we figured, well, if one person buys this, then anyone can have it. And then our business isn't a business because anyone can share it, So we kind of played it really close to our chest and did a lot of research and, gave it to our friends and all this kind of stuff and tried a whole bunch of times to do various partnerships with people. A lot of people didn't really understand it at the time. And then in order to stream it, technology wasn't at a place where it could even work. And even after it took us a long time to find the right people to be able to take the thought of what we needed to do and actually put it in your hand. You know what I mean? So it's been a roller coaster, to say the least, of just doing all the research. And neither one of us have any programming skills or any of the stuff that we've done. So we've basically done it all by researching people, finding a lot of wrong people, and then finding a couple of right ones. And this is where we're at. We actually are at a really cool point right now where we can stream it through an app, through the App Store. We don't have it on the App Store yet. We're just in the front end part of creating that. But we've been testing it for a couple of weeks, and we can stream the entire file uninterrupted through this thing called Test Flight.
So there's two different technologies and I'm going to be the house idiot that still doesn't understand everything fully. So I'm going to ask the dumbed down questions for myself. So technology number one is the actual hertz and assigning them to healing properties and things you're trying to help in your own physical well-being. Technology question number two is if you are going to expose yourself to these tonalities, doing it while you sleep is the most convenient way to do it, which means that these tonalities need to be really long, 8 hours long. And so the streaming part of it and these giant files you're talking about is Toby making these tonalities for tomes and making them be able to be received by me while I'm sleeping. How do you get them on my bedside table? And
I walk over and put them there.
So as Toby is working on the tones themselves and kind of mixing these different hertz levels depending on what kind of healing and what kind of physical help you're trying to heal yourself with, you're also, like you said, this is before Netflix and all of this kind of stuff. And the actual internet and file sizes and sharing this stuff at the time hadn't caught up with where you were going. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about, and this goes into a layman's terminology, when CDs came out, a lot of music lovers complained because they didn't sound as good as their vinyl albums. We can all agree cassettes sounded like crap. So did 8-tracks. Right. But vinyl is having such a resurgence because it sounds better. It lends itself to this discussion. Can you explain why it is that a CD version of a song versus a vinyl version of a song does not sound the same, and what the CD does to the music to make it not sound as good? Because
interesting question.
It's clipping the super highs and lows, right? In order to be able to digitally share the digital file on a CD?
It doesn't have to. Most of the recordings of the early stuff was taken off the vinyl, right? That was the only way they had, like, say, Elvis, for instance. If you have an Elvis CD, it's most likely you're going to hear clicks and pops from the vinyl, because there's no other way to get it on there. And, leveraging the master tapes from whoever was probably not happening at the time, right? So a lot of stuff was pulled from the vinyl. Vinyl had its limitations, but what we loved most about the vinyl was the fact that it was warm, right? And, it really accentuated the bottom end. The bass guitar sounded great. The cello sounded amazingly rich. Kick drums sounded like big and vibrant. All those bottom end instruments were really, really present. When you moved into CD land, I noticed that a lot of that was a lot thinner, and I didn't have that, that punch that I had with my vinyl. I didn't have, the replication of the vinyl, right? I didn't get the same feeling. And it's kind of like MP3 is today. MP3 is a really, really bad file format for anyone to listen to because they cut off a lot of top frequencies, a lot of bottom frequencies, and they just give you that little bit in between. And all that you really need to hear, they say. So, but I want to hear all the way down. I want to hear all the way up as far as my ears will let me. And, so I'm probably one of the few, audiophile people out there that I love, my space in the music. Vinyl allowed that to happen, right? Because, you had depth into the song, right? Or sounds, depth into the sounds. And, like, I'm thinking of Pink Floyd, for instance. When I got the CD, Dark Side of the Moon, I was very disappointed, actually, because I had to go get the remastered kick-ass version and pay $40 or whatever it was for it to, like, come close to matching the album feeling. And I don't know. It's just...
So I bring it up because it lends itself to tomes that these tonalities you're making, if you put them on an MP3, it's going to clip off all of the extra stuff that are the frequencies that are what you're purposefully putting there, which
That's
means
right.
they've got to be a WAV file, which is a far superior file.
Absolutely.
And then you're limited to how long that WAV file can be. They can only be so big, right?
Well, for most people, that's correct. For myself, that's incorrect.
Well, that's the story I want you to tell me.
Well, we have a little mouse in our pocket, and we were able to make unlimited length WAV files at this point in time. Unlimited meaning, what was it, 4,000 years?
4,600 plus years.
Okay, thank you.
And this is one of the technologies that, Jason, you were alluding to about bringing in these people to be able to help, and that you had to find a way to make these massive WAV files possible so that I could sit there and sleep for 8 hours and have this entire tonality for the duration of my sleep.
In a WAV file.
Right.
Right. Because you can have, you can go on YouTube and you can find whatever for 10 hours, but I guarantee that it's not going to work as well as TAUMMHOMS does because of the compression that YouTube puts it on, first of all. And second of all, it's probably an MP3.
So when you're making these tonalities and someone hears us talking about this, they go, oh, I have a white noise machine. It's the same thing. Explain to me why it's not the same thing. Explain to me the difference between something that helps relax you to help you fall asleep versus what it is that you guys now have.
So, as I explained before, white noise is a product of many, many frequencies, hundreds, maybe thousands. It could be up to 20,000 frequencies, right? One from 0 to 20,000, right? And it's going to have every single one of those frequencies in between. That's called white noise. What I'm doing is I'm picking out the frequencies that will help you the most and getting rid of the rest. Okay. The white noise is just that. It's equal amounts of, amplitude, which is loudness of each frequency. Right. And so when you have equal amounts, it doesn't sound so hot. As I found out when I was creating my first tonality, I put together like 24 different or 36, whatever it was, different frequencies. And I put them all at the same level. And I went, let's hear that. And I just went, that sucks. What do I do now? I'm a failure. Right? This isn't going to work, And I thought about it for a while and I thought, hey, what if I actually mix this? Right. Like I'm a mixer. I can make things sound good, right? So
like a band song.
Exactly. So I, when I went to school, I learned all these electrical theories. So I went back to my electrical theories and I thought, hey man, what if you take one of those electrical theories and you apply it to what you're doing here? How's that work? And I did. And I came up with what I call a power curve. And so it takes X amount of power to push out the lower frequencies. It takes a lot less power to push out the higher frequencies. So I took this power curve that I wrote for myself and just followed that along with, how I mixed the song, right? And so then it came out with the lower frequencies being a lot more abundant than you can hear than, like the upper range frequencies. And then it was very pleasing to listen to. And that's what helps me relax, helps me get rid of anxiety and depression, helps me fall asleep and stay asleep. Right. I used to wake up all the time, with pain here, pain there. And, especially since I was in a bigger car accident years before. And so, I had lots of pain all my life. And then now I don't notice it. I can sleep really heavily through the night.
So Jason, can you talk to me about putting TAUMMHOMS out as something that people can have access to? And if you're a person that has, like Toby said, anxiety or pain or nerve issues, you go to actually take this incredibly complex idea and these tones and these files. How do you describe it to someone that is in search of relief that's not narcotics and medication?
Well, I guess the best description for it would be when it comes to just vibration and matching vibration. It's really simple. Like, you wouldn't listen to Slayer if you were trying to go to sleep, unless you're into that kind of thing. But the lower the sound is, your brain constantly locks into its surroundings. So if your brain is slower, then you fall asleep right around 10 hertz, kind of in that frequency bandwidth. And then your body has to restore itself and repair itself, because that's what sleeping is. So white noise, all these other things, other apps that bore you to sleep and all the rest of it, you just kind of get tired of the repetition and you go to sleep. But where this is miles ahead of everything else is that while you were sleeping, your brain is doing and executing all these functions while you are asleep without you even knowing. So cell repair, the main piece of your brain cleaning itself. Like when you go to sleep, your brain is a car wash, essentially. And it cleans out all of there's plaques that build up in your brain that do lead to Alzheimer's. If you don't have enough sleep, they start collecting, and then we can get to that in a little bit. So if you sleep less than 6 hours, optimally it's 8, then your brain doesn't have a chance to basically file your day's events in the categories that it needs to file in. So then if you woke up, say 4 hours, you only slept for 4 hours, wake up the next day, well, then you're in a deficit. You can't bank sleep. You can't catch up on sleep. But if you don't get proper sleep continuously and you wake up, say, after a 4-hour sleep, even if you're used to it for 8 hours, say for like 2 weeks, if you shortchange yourself once, it will take you days to get back to where you were, just because your body and your circadian rhythm, which is your natural body clock, is now out of sync. Because people that go to sleep traditionally when they get tired usually wake up within 5 or 10 minutes the next day without an alarm clock, because your body has a cycle. People that drink a ton of coffee and take melatonin and all of these different things, and stuff to force yourself to go to sleep, stuff to force yourself to be awake, all you're doing is basically shortchanging your body. And when it comes to the sleeping part of things, if you don't take care of yourself now, I promise you in 20 or 25 years from now, you're going to have difficulty in dementia area, Alzheimer's area. Sleep deprivation is 30% linked directly to those two different diseases.
This is the part of the conversation when we were catching up in Nashville a few months ago that really piqued my interest, because I've had two things happen in the last, say, 20 months. The first thing was I got laid off right before COVID hit, and I, like a lot of other people, was locked in the house. And I was able to do something I had never done in my adult life, which is to go to bed every night and not set an alarm the next day, because when you're on COVID lockdown and you're unemployed, it didn't really matter. And I noticed within about a week or so that my body wakes up at 9:30 in the morning. If I go to bed and I just let myself sleep, I wake up, like you said, within 5 or 10 minutes of that time every day. And I had never given myself the opportunity to ever wake up whenever I wanted, except maybe that occasional rainy Sunday morning where you just are like, I don't have anything going on, I can just sleep in. Right. I didn't know that about myself, that 9:30 is when I would normally wake up. The other thing that happened to me during the lockdown was that I found out that my mom has been diagnosed with dementia. Now, I had known that Alzheimer's ran in the family, but generation to generation, it's getting diagnosed and symptoms are arriving earlier and earlier. So as we were talking about this in Nashville, and you use the car wash analogy about your brain needing to file these things away, and you started talking about these proteins that if you don't rest and allow your body a chance to file everything away and clean your brain out, that this plaque builds up in your brain. And when you told me that that is one of the major links to Alzheimer's, it took the breath out of my lungs. Tell me what you told me next that floored me about the future predictions of Alzheimer's in America.
Well, where we are right now, it will be the #1 killer in the United States by 2050. And it's basically in the group. So 2050 is 29 years from now. The largest affected group is people from 25 to 45, because that age group tends to wear I work 20 hours today like a badge, and somehow I'm tricking you because I work more than you kind of idea, which you couldn't be more wrong in that statement, because if you slept more and were more efficient, there's nothing that you need to do 20 hours a day. But the thing that really is harmful in this whole scenario is that it doesn't really show up for 20, 25 years from now. Little bits of plaque start building up, and then your first thing to go is your short-term memory. So a lot of people go, well, where was I yesterday? Or did I have chicken for dinner last night? Those are the things that go first, because your long-term memory is baked in. But that's the first thing to go. And people just think it's old age, or just, I can't remember. My memory isn't what it once used to be.
I have too much stuff to remember. I have too many passwords for Facebook to remember. I can't possibly.
That's meta now, by the way.
Sorry. Pardon me. Yeah.
I'm joking. That's kind of the thing. And your brain kind of gets mixed up because you're killing your neurological connections. Right. If you sleep properly, there's 3 proteins. 2 of them are soluble, that are created, and then they're soluble with your cerebral spinal fluid. The other one, if you shortchange yourself, it latches on to one of the others, either one, and then it creates this little pockmark kind of thing in your brain, and then that's the start of all this stuff. And currently in 2021, that's an irreversible situation to be involved in. If it is generated, you can't take it away. Hopefully in the future, my good friend Toby, perhaps there'll be a frequency that can basically earthquake this stuff, break it up, and then it will get washed out in the car wash. Obviously, this is way down the line, but I'm going to say it's not impossible.
So when I talk to doctors about dementia and Alzheimer's, because I'm dealing with it as a primary caregiver for a loved one right now, they told me the best thing you can do is eat right, lower your stress level, and sleep. That's what the doctor said. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, well, when you're a busy person, those are like the 3 most difficult things to do, right? That, like you said, that everybody hangs their hat on how hard they work and how they never sleep. And technology has only made that more difficult. Something else that I know is that when it comes to sleeping naturally, is that natural melatonin that allows you to go to sleep. And there is something that eats away at your melatonin that we are literally exposed to constantly and is only getting worse. Mm-hmm. And Toby's nodding his head. Go ahead.
Well, it's the blue light from your phone. Right. And the blue light on the computer that I'm staring at, and that's staring at you right now, too. It's that kills the melatonin in your brain. So I have a habit of, an hour and a half to 2 hours before I'm actually ready to lay my head on the pillow, I turn off my phone and I don't look at it anymore. And that's just me. Some people they go to extremes. No Wi-Fi, no nothing, but I'm not that way, because I listen to TAUMMHOMS every night.
But blue light, to Jason, to go back to what you were just talking about in these predictions, the technology that we're using more and more all the time is disrupting our melatonin. So even if you are trying to go to bed and get a good night's sleep, if this blue light is disrupting your melatonin, it's going to keep you from being able to sleep better.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And for as long. Mm-hmm. And so we're perpetuating the problem. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something, for anybody that's listening to this that's never been exposed to anyone with Alzheimer's and dementia, it is the scariest thing I have ever seen in my life. And when you guys were telling me about TAUMMHOMS and about what it is that our brains are doing while we're sleeping, every night now that I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I think of you two now. And I'm not even kidding. I think of you guys and I think about my mom and I think about that future, and that if it is going to be the number one killer in the United States come 2050, knowing the resources that it's required to take care of my mom, we are not ready as a society to have Alzheimer's and dementia get any worse than it already is in our population right now.
And
we're
it will
not
double.
ready. That is so frightening.
But it's not necessarily by accident either. Because if you could tell somebody that, this is the health and wellness month on My Right Stuff. So if you told someone that if you ate better and exercised and listened to rain to lull yourself to sleep, well, that's really not good for business. Let's give you this $1,500 phone and all this other stuff, and distract you.
Tell them to hit the drive-through.
Yeah,
exactly.
Getting food delivered to you and just all this other stuff. Because let's not try to kid anybody here. There's trillions of dollars in sick people in everything, in diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's,
cancer,
everything, cigarettes, alcohol, everything. And I'm not an ad. You do whatever makes you happy. I'm not going to say anything against anybody.
Yeah, none of us are getting out of this alive.
That's true.
But there wasn't TAUMMHOMS before this, so you might never know.
That's
but
right.
I look at my mom, who's 69 years old and physically healthy as a horse,
right,
and doesn't know who I am anymore.
That's
and
heartbreaking.
What scared me the most was that my mom was always like, I got my work ethic from her, right? That she is so hardworking, loved her job, was passionate about what she did, the same way that I am, and wanted to do it all the time. And I love to work. I'm always working. I'm always doing stuff. And I think as a society, we all have this concept of Social Security and retirement, that we're going to work really, 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 really hard and then get to the point where we can just unplug and not have to work anymore. And we're going to get these amazing years of doing nothing and retirement and relaxation. And what I saw with my mom was that she hit that age of retirement and now is not in a position to be able to enjoy those years at all, because she can't go anywhere. She can't do anything. She can't travel. She can't drive. But she's physically healthy. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about TAUMMHOMS because personally, I want to do everything that I can to avoid, if it's inevitable for me genetically, I want to be able to stretch out that inevitability as long as I can. And I'm hoping that it's not as genetic as a component as it is lifestyle based. And so my hope is that I can change my lifestyle enough to stretch out some more good, healthy years on the end. So for someone that's listening to this that says, I am a caregiver of, because I've encountered a lot of people that are now caregivers of, it's one of those things you don't realize how many people are doing it until you start talking about it. And when I started talking about my mom, so many people have reached out to me and say, I am a caregiver for someone as well. So for somebody that's listening to this, that is worried about brain health, dementia, Alzheimer's, those kind of things, but also maybe had a car accident and had nerve pain and doesn't want to go the pharmaceutical route, where do you get started with this? Because you guys have put TAUMMHOMS together. You have made it available for people to try. How do they get started?
Well, they can go to our website, which is TAUMMHOMS.com, www.TAUMMHOMS.com. We have, you can sign up there, $9.99 a month, and currently. And we have 3 categories of sleep. We have the refresh, and we have restore, and we have revive. And those are 3 different levels of sleep, if you will. And then each one of them has, 7 or 8 different subcategories, right? And it goes like a crystalline rain. Fantabulous is like a fan sound. We have lapping waves. We have ocean. We have a rainstorm and waterfall. And then we have something called au naturel, which is the tonality by itself, which is something I love. And the reason I have the nature sounds over the natural sound is because someone tried it years and years ago, and they said, man, this is really, really, really powerful. I think it's too powerful for me. I need something else under it or over it. And so I started putting, ocean and rain sounds and water sounds of nature in there. And he really, really fell in love with this stuff. So that's where you can reach us. So the difference between
something you would get like at Brookstone, that's a wave machine. The wave machine is just waves.
Right. That's all
Your wave tones have the tonalities for healing embedded in them, but just packaged with the wave noise, because that makes people that like to listen to waves more relaxed.
Right. Exactly. And if you are one of those people that, has a Brookstone type thing, and, just throw it away and come to TAUMMHOMS, because it is true that, we do have the same tonality or same, water sequences as many of the other people out there. But at the same time, they don't have what we have, which is, the healing tonality underneath it in kind of like a subconscious listening level.
It's 2 boxes. One's empty, one's not, but they look the same on the outside.
Exactly.
It's like Amazon and Wish. It may appear to be helpful, but perhaps there's nothing behind door number 3.
Right.
And that goes for a lot of apps that are on the market currently.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell me about the 3 different types of tonalities that you have: the revive, the refresh. Tell me the idea behind making the 3 different types.
Okay, so refresh is designed to tap into your alpha brain waves. It's, natural, just state of mind, something that I used to use for naps, basically. And, it's centered, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's centered around 8 hertz, 7 hertz, somewhere in there. So that, you go to sleep, but, your deepest REM sleep is coming up under revive, which is, next we go to restore. And that's at about, I believe it was 6 hertz. And then after that, we go down to 4 with the revive tonality. And so what this is designed to do is, since there are different, levels of sleep, is to put you in a lighter sleep, and then a heavier sleep, and then an even heavier sleep after that, like, your REM sleeps and all that, because REM is where your body actually heals. So the normal person who gets 8 hours of sleep and is a healthy person, they will probably only get about 20 minutes of REM per evening, right? Which is horrible.
Out of 8 hours?
Out of 8 hours. Do you believe that? So my theory is that if I can hold you down into REM longer, you will heal faster and more adequately. And that's my theory behind having the 3 different levels of sleep. So, and then we also have lullabies, which is a crazy thing, because, we love all those kids to go to sleep, and I know your parents do too. So they'll have, they'll lull you to sleep. We got the Brahms lullaby and Hush Little Baby and Tula Rula or something like that. I don't remember what that one is. And Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and You're My Sunshine and stuff like that. And then we have what we call Sounds of Healing, and that goes from, pain management, like I was speaking of earlier, to, I even have some sexual function and dysfunction type things in there. Have things for your lower GI, have,
tinnitus.
Things for tinnitus for sure. What else is there?
Every music fan that's ever been to a concert just went, wait a minute, did you say tinnitus? Because that's why a lot of people listen to stuff when they go to sleep, because they don't want to hear the high-pitched ringing in their ears from the hearing damage they have from all the shows.
That's absolutely true.
Correct.
I got headache stuff in there, the tinnitus, like you mentioned, and, for blurry vision and cataracts, we have something called Unveil, which is, for your eyes. And, it's just kind of, it's going to grow from there. This is just the first iteration of us, getting it out to the public. And so I think it's really important that I stress that this really does work. And it works wonders, and I've done so much research into it. And I keep doing research every day because I by no means am a medical expert of whatsoever, but following theory is one thing that I think I'm really good at, and I think that the theory behind the sound healing is really, really important to understand and know.
Does it, if it helps a lot of physical ailments, does it also help emotional and psychological ailments too?
Absolutely.
Because I do a lot of work like with veterans in the military, and you start talking about post-traumatic stress. And so is this something that could be used in that application as well? Absolutely.
I don't have one that's specifically designed for PTSD yet. I've been working on something like that. It's difficult, but it's not, it won't be that hard to overcome in the end. But yes, there's all kinds of, I'm working with the frequency of human emotion at the moment, which to me is very precarious because we all have emotions, right? And so, something that makes you cry, what emotion is that? What frequency is that? And so during the pandemic, like you were saying, you were locked up and all that kind of stuff. Well, a lot of people, millions of us were. Unfortunately, about half to 3/4 were locked up with people they don't like. And so the domestic violence rate increased by 210%.
Wow.
It was at that point that I was like, well, how can I help that? I can't really, but let me check into it. But I designed something that I call TAUMMHO, which is designed to invoke happiness and love and feelings of togetherness along with well-being. And then when you put this on in the background all day, it really helps you feel closer to that person, that's within your 6 walls.
Jason, can you talk about what kind of feedback you've been getting from people that try this? Everyday people that have just said, you know what, I've tried everything else, I'm going to try this. What kind of feedback are you getting from people?
We've had a lot of amazing stories. We've had one of my good friends had hearing loss and / tinnitus from seeing Motley Crue in the late 80s. And pretty much from that point on, from like 1988 up until 2019, was basically at the end of the rope with tinnitus. Didn't know what else to do, had to listen to music all day long at work, went, laid down at night, ears are ringing. And within about a week, it doesn't cure it, but there's a thing called brainwave entrainment. So for people like Toby and I that have been using this for a very long time, you can throw on a file, and within 30 seconds for myself, my brain goes to that place. Because your brain, you can't rewire your brain, but you can kind of massage it and move it into areas so that when you do put it on, your brain will lock into that. Another situation was someone that had panic attacks and was just continuously kind of paranoid about going outside. And what if I get in the car? What if I get into a car accident? What if a meteor hits me from space? All these other things. And then after about a week, what was it, about 2 weeks, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Completely different person, 180 degrees different, used it for a couple months, then figured like, okay, I'm in a better place now. I'm just going to, and this is before we had the website even up and running. I'm just going to go on about my life and everything will be good. Well, less than a month after that, the old behavior started coming back. So then used it for another week after the break and then got back on track again. Just of people that couldn't sleep, people that wake up all night, wake up every 30 minutes, because people traditionally don't sleep through the night anyway. They may think that they do, but they don't. And as you get older, you wake up in the middle of the night and so on and so forth. But with what TAUMMHOMS is and the different levels of whatever you select, that will take you down and it'll keep you there. And with the files that we currently have, it'll also wake you up at the end. So if your body goes into deep sleep, restores itself, you wake up feeling like $1,000,000 or whatever the expression is. And that's because your body actually did what it needed to do. People are happier. Athletes that have tried it perform better, because it's all about getting into a state of mind. And in the current world that we live in, where you see 3,000 ads every day and all the stuff that's going on around you, it's really hard to focus on any one specific thing. Then you have a mishmash of a whole bunch of different things, and you can't really do one thing great. But when you have a pure sine wave, which is what this is, and your brain is familiar with it, and you can kind of declutter your view of whatever you're doing, well, then you can lock into certain specific areas. Sleep being one of them, meditation being another, high performance stuff. All the different kind of facets of this makes you a better person, because you're basically clearing out the clutter by focusing on something that's true, that your brain isn't exposed to, especially in days like in current time. Everything's really noisy and really kind of, there's confusion in general with things. Society has different ideas that they put on you, that you have to work longer, like I was saying earlier, unless you're not successful. And you have to work till you're 65, and then you can retire, and then you go see the world. Luckily for me, I guess I retired in my 20s and 30s because I went all over the world and seen all kinds of things on somebody else's dime. So to me, kind of living life in reverse, but at the same time, really experience the stuff when I could go and do all the stuff. And I didn't have any of the aches and stuff that perhaps when you get into your, 50s and so on, 60s, that is harder on you. There's also stuff in there to do with joint pain, because we are vibrating. Everything around us is a vibration. Matter is vibration. So if you put the vibration in to your body that perhaps you're missing, well, then that certain sector has now been filled, and you're not kind of yearning for it. That's where stress and anxiety come from.
Right.
Like, you don't know why you're out of sync or out of whack or whatever you want to call it or describe it. You just know that you're missing something, and your brain is chasing something, and then you're out of balance. If you rebalance it, then it puts it back. It's like a thing being in tune. Toby said it earlier. Something's in tune, you know that it sounds right. Something's out of tune. You may not know what string of the guitar is out of tune. You just know that it's not right. And you apply that to your day-to-day life and your brain and how you interpret things. Things that are in tune are more pleasant than things that are out of tune.
It's such a fascinating concept, and it's something that I think can be intimidating to people, and there may be this technology hurdle that they feel like they need to get over, and they really don't. Explain how somebody that wants to try this actually would go about using it at home, because there's no real, you're not selling a machine or something that I need to bring into my house. So explain to me how I would go about using this at home.
Okay.
Well, all you need to do is just, like I said, go to the website. We have descriptions of different levels and different parts in the sound healing section. And then you can try and see what works for you. Sometimes men gravitate to, the au naturel tone by itself. Sometimes women like the waterfall sound. So you try it, and within 3 days, because you have to realize the way that people are, like right now, if you haven't tried anything, you're not in the meditation world or any of that kind of thing, you have this big bunch of stuff kind of going on in your brain, and you can't really find any specific baseline. Well, you try this for 2 or 3 days, find out which one works the best for you, and then you do more of that. Mm-hmm. And then you go, well, this one worked for me. This one made me go to the bathroom 5 times at night. You know what I mean? Because that's happened too. There's some sort of thing in there that I think it was the crashing waves one. Women were more apt to go to the bathroom more. No idea why.
Well, I mean, there is that whole thing about listening to running water and having it make you need to pee.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's only in females for some reason.
That's really crazy.
Yeah, it's super, super weird. But you go on the website, you find out what works for you. Bluetooth headphones is the best, but no one has perfected the headphones portion of the program yet. Bluetooth speaker from your iPad, your iPhone. You can stream it through your television if you wanted to. Anything that gets the internet can stream it and do it on Wi-Fi.
Just have it in the background while you're sleeping.
Just loud enough to hear.
Gotcha.
Because there's a lot of stuff going on that your brain interprets that your ear can't. So turning it up louder to get more effectiveness will only work the wrong way for you.
Well, that's why I asked the difference between frequency and decibel.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you don't need to make it loud for you to hear the frequencies that are in it.
Correct.
You got to feel it. It doesn't have to blow your hair back. This is sound healing, not Metallica. So,
is it something that you have been surprised by the reaction from people? Because I think in this day and age, there's always going to be hesitancy that maybe something doesn't work. Were you surprised, Toby, at how well it worked for you, and how quickly did you notice in your own health?
Wow. I was very surprised, because as I explained earlier, I didn't know anything about sound healing, and I didn't even know it was a modality for healing at that point in time. I was just going along with my clueless rock and roll, and, didn't really know how deeply affected I was, by the accident and how badly my body was damaged, right? Didn't understand how damaged I was. And so when I first started delving into this, I was, it came back rather quickly as opposed to, I don't know what drugs I could have been on to have to, make the race, but, from my expectation, it was very quick, a couple of years, because I expected to be numb, like in patches all over my body, for the rest of my life. Right. I just thought, it's one of those things. I got a pinched nerve here and a this there and a dead nerve over there, and I'm never going to feel that part of my body again. What can you do about that? Nothing. So, but for these nerves to wake up, as it were, it was really interesting, and the feeling was really cool. But the going to sleep thing and realizing that I could put this next to my bed, go to sleep, and then wake up feeling really refreshed was really cool, because I had never had that before. I have sleep apnea really bad, I guess. And, people that I had laid down and slept with, they're like, dude, you need to breathe in your sleep. Like, Jesus Christ, you hold your breath.
That's the scariest
for
thing in the
hours.
world for me, is that idea that people stop breathing while they sleep.
Right.
So crazy. And that they have to wear this Bane mask to be able to breathe. And I'm like, how is that relaxing for you to be able to sleep with this giant suction machine on your face while you're sleeping?
Well, it blows air into it puts a pressure on your nose and your mouth, right? Because I wear one every night now. And I've hooked up my headphones to the straps on the CPAP machine. So all I have to do is hit the machine and it turns on automatically. I just built that myself. But, what it does is it keeps a pressure so that when you actually stop breathing, that it forces you to breathe, right? It sends another super pounding pressure into your throat, and all of a sudden you're breathing again. I don't know, because I'm sound asleep, and I've never slept better in my life than to use TAUMMHOMS and the machine at the same time.
After my motorcycle accident 6 years ago, and I had to have surgery on my nose to fix it because it got so smashed in the accident, I couldn't believe how much my sleep was disrupted between when the accident happened and when I was able to get my nose fixed. Right. Because I couldn't breathe through my nose for those months before the surgery. And I couldn't believe how it affected my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my nose fixed and could breathe again. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane how much better I sleep now. But even though I have this perfectly symmetrical wonder of modern science on my face, I wake up every morning, no matter what time. And within the first 10 minutes of my morning, I am white knuckling a cup of coffee every day.
Right. You and me both.
Not me anymore.
Wait,
No,
you
you're
quit
off the
drinking coffee?
I quit drinking coffee, and I used to drink like 5-6 cups of coffee a day. But I dehydrated myself to a point of almost being in the hospital this past July, and then stopped drinking coffee at the same time. So I felt for about like 10 days that somebody hit me over the head with a phone book, and then kind of cured myself, whatever, but using tomes to sleep, letting your body find the natural circadian rhythm, and not drinking coffee. At 46 years old, I've never felt better. And I love coffee. And my coffee machine is still over there kind of whispering at me right now. But I'm not going to go back to it. And ask Toby, if you think I talk a lot now, just imagine what I'd be like on 5 cups of coffee.
Wee.
I can't imagine not drinking, not drinking it, not needing it in the morning.
Right.
I can't imagine what it would be like to wake up completely refreshed and not tired every day. And this is the kind of stuff that scares me so much, which is why I wanted to talk to you guys about this, because I am at that point in my life where I'm like, if I don't try to make my own health a priority now, I mean, it could very well be already too late, but I feel like I should do everything that I can to make healthy choices now to try and avoid what I hope is not the inevitable in my future.
You either focus on wellness or save for illness. There's one or the other.
Ooh, that's profound and powerful right there.
Coming to a TAUMMHOMS store near you.
Right.
But that, it's not to be fatal or anything in this, but that's exactly what it is. The better you take care of yourself, the better you're going to be later on.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of leads to the whole thing of people, going back a little bit, of sleeping on a thought to make a decision. Your brain has to sort out the pros and the cons and everything. And somehow the next day you wake up, regardless if it's a good decision for you or a bad decision for you long-term, you're better off the next day with some definitive answer than you would have been the night before. Right. And it's all based on...
I do that when I get mad and I'm going to fire off a nasty email to someone. I got talked into the habit of saving it as a draft and dealing with it the next day. And probably 90 to 95% of the time I don't send it.
Right.
Because you're not in the same headspace the next day.
Right. But that 5%, you really earned it if I send it after 24 hours. But I have noticed that there are times where I think we've all done that, right? Especially with the arguments people get into on social media about politics now or whatever, that things just fly out of your brain and through your fingertips into the ether of the internet. And the next day you're like, I got to go and delete all that stuff. I was why did I say that? What was I? Because what you're saying is true, to sleep on a thought, to give yourself that time to kind of process whatever it is that you wanted to say. And how many dumb things on the aforementioned Facebook would have been avoided had people not just typed whatever stream of consciousness was coming out of their head at the time.
Right.
And then that stuff has a way of haunting you in the future.
Yeah, you can't take words back.
Nope.
No.
You can't erase them from a hard drive either.
Yeah. You could try.
Oh, yeah.
You can try. Well, I'm so grateful that there are people out there trying to find a non-pharmaceutical, natural accessible to everyone way of solving some of these modern day issues, because I think health is something that we all take for granted until you don't have it anymore.
That's right.
And usually by the time you don't have it anymore, it's too late to get it back. Like,
Yep.
you know, I don't want to be one of those people that didn't make my own health a priority when I should have.
Right.
I don't think anybody in this world wants to be coulda, shoulda, woulda-ing their later years.
Mm-hmm.
No. The stronger your immune system is, the better you are, period. Against things known and things unknown.
Right.
Is this, if I start listening to this while I'm sleeping, is it going to do anything weird to my husband or my beloved pug that sleeps with me at night?
Hopefully it'll help them sleep as well. That's about all it'll do, especially the pug. And, you know, I have little puppies around here that just love tomes. When they hear it, they come running, and like if I have the door closed to the bedroom, they'll be knocking on the door, like literally scratching at the door. Like, and I open the door and they come in and they jump on the bed. I can only imagine, like, what are they hearing? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was going to say, because they can hear more than we can. So what does
Sure.
it sound like to them?
Right. Who knows? Right. But, you know, I have a friend in Alabama. He has a horse rescue farm. He's had some good success with it as well. You know, on with horses that have been a bit out of control. Right. And so, you know, he wore a Bluetooth speaker on a backpack, and, you know, he put it on as he was going around, and, you know, the horse came up and just stuck his nose in the backpack and was like, what the heck is that? You know, and then followed him around for a little bit. So
People joke when they hear my pug that she needs a CPAP machine because she snores all the time because she's a pug.
Pugs just do that, I think.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
And it's
snort
become
and this.
it's become something, you know, some people like to listen to the ocean, like you were saying. Like, I've had pugs so long that I find their snoring to be so rhythmic and relaxing that I find it weird when I don't have a snoring pug in the room when I go to bed.
Hey, would you record that for me? Because I'll make a tomes just for you of the pug snoring with some tonality underneath it, right? And
I'm
that'll
sure
help you sleep.
Wednesday would love it if I tried to hover a microphone over her little snout while she was sleeping.
Oh, you don't have to get it that close. Just turn up the mic gain a little bit.
You're talking to somebody that has an Instagram page for her dog, Toby, okay?
I know you do.
Cuckoo. Well, is there anything that you want people to know? Anything that we haven't talked about that I wasn't smart enough to ask you about, that if they are listening to this and they're really curious about how this works, or did I forget anything?
I don't think so. Jay?
No, I don't think you forgot anything. And basically, the time of talking, you know, people may think they sleep well, and perhaps they do. But who couldn't sleep better, I guess, is the question I'm trying to get to.
Right.
And who doesn't have a friend that comes to work, that does this, that all the different things? I slept terribly. My mind's racing. I can't seem to shut my brain off. All this stuff. Like, this is on the internet. Anyone in the world that's listening to this can go to our website. They can try it for a week. It works anywhere in the world. And give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, you're not out of pocket. Like, we're literally offering you the best thing to help you. All you have to do is do it. They can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink. But hopefully in the last 60, 70 minutes of talking, people learn different pieces of sleep and function and restoration and the healing part that maybe they didn't know beforehand.
Right.
You know what else I thought about it too is everybody always has that person around the holidays that they just sit there and go, this person has everything. What am I supposed to buy for this person?
Mm-hmm.
This seems to me like something that would be really cool to get as a gift, because
Right.
it might not be something that you would think to do for yourself, but someone gives it to you and you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll try this and see if it works for me. And it seems like that problem solver gift to, what do you get that person that maybe has chronic pain or trouble sleeping or is stressed or whatever it is. And rather than buying them an ugly sweater or whatever, that this could be something that you could get for somebody and it could change their life.
That's right.
You are correct.
Absolutely. So you can do that by contacting Jason at TAUMMHOMS.com.
There you go.
So you can just go on the website and sign up for this and get access to all of the tonalities and everything right on the website. It's not hard to do.
Correct. But if you want to gift it to someone, currently with the website, you'd have to do it through me.
Gotcha.
But when we have our app, then it'll be in the next year, like beginning of next year, people will be able to gift it to each other and send it to each other and all that kind of thing. But you are 100% correct. What do you get for people that have everything?
Yeah.
Well, if you feel better, your life is better. It's about that simple.
Yeah.
And
well, I am dying to try it. I haven't tried it yet. And it's something where I said, you know what? I wanted to sit and talk to you guys, and I wanted to ask you my questions about it and see what you thought and hear other people's, just like with anybody that buys anything on the internet, they want to read the reviews and stuff. I wanted to talk to the people that actually make it. And because I know you guys and love you guys and have known you so long, I knew that once I talked to you, I would be convinced to try it. And now I'm going to have to try it, because now I want to know what it's like to wake up awake and rested and feeling great. I need to know what that is like.
Well, you
Well,
will
you're in the right
shortly.
place.
You're not taking my coffee though, Jason. I don't care what you say.
You can drink as much coffee as you want. I'm just telling you that there are other ways here, and it's not with a coffee cup chained to your hand. But
I don't even have one here right now.
Wait, it's not.
I literally, Toby, I did the same thing. I went looking for mine, but I don't have it down here.
every new sign up will get one of my extra Nespresso pods that I have left over. I have like 100 of them.
That's perfect.
I won't
Guaranteed.
give away the machine. I won't give away the machine just yet, but I have a bunch of Nespresso pods.
Well, it was so good to see you guys. I'm fascinated by this whole thing, and selfishly, just from my own personal experience and everything that I have been going throughout the pandemic, and the family pressures, and obviously just living with someone that I love so much that it is in need of the kind of care my mom is now. If the reason, the selfish reason why I wanted to talk to you guys more than anything is, if this helps to keep people from having to take care of people or to end up themselves the way that my mom is now, we need to do that. Because I think anyone that spends any amount of time with someone that has any form of dementia or Alzheimer's, you realize how tragic and painful it is, not just for that person, but how grueling and painful it can be for the people that love them the most, because it breaks your heart, and it's really, really hard. And if this can help with that, then literally everyone needs to use it, because I would do almost anything to avoid and to be able to reverse what it is that I'm seeing my mom go through right now. It's hard.
Right. It's really hard, but you can also play it for her. Right. She can start using it as well.
You know what?
No reason
I will try
why not.
anything. Why not? Yeah, I would try anything. I mean, it's been, when you talked about, the stress levels and mental health and all of that because of COVID, even the healthiest of people have had all of these challenges. And, COVID would have been bad enough for me. Getting laid off last February would have been bad enough, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, being that person that is there with someone that's dealing with this kind of memory issue, it's taken me to a breaking point sometimes that I didn't think was possible. It's been difficult. So,
but she's lucky enough to have you.
That's right.
So there is a benefit or an upside to it.
And I look at it and just say, you know what? This is how you pay your mother back for all of the dumb things we did when we were kids. You know what I mean? All those nights of being up late, crying, all of the, the food fights, it's just all of the things that children put their mothers through. I tell myself every day that this is how I pay that back.
Right.
But I would give anything to have it not be the case. So I appreciate the work that you guys are doing, for sure.
Thank you. A flux and upward are the two recommendations that I would have for your mom.
Awesome. Well, I will give it a shot for sure.
When you go on there, and those ones are only, there's half an hour and 1 hour files. So, you can play it for her for an hour and then give her some sleep files. Something like that might help. And you can play it in the background in the house during the day.
Yeah. Which I think would be like the easiest thing,
Right. And it doesn't have to be very loud at all, because she might go, Carrie, what is that thing over there? She
uses more colorful language than that, Toby, but yes, exactly.
Well, I was trying to be nice because I don't know your mom, so I would have done a killer impression if I
But you know me, and I came from someplace.
Yeah, that's true. You got a good point. All right, fucking Carrie. Now listen to me.
Exactly. Now you got it.
Wagging the finger and everything.
Mm-hmm. It was so good to talk to you guys, and thank you so much for answering my inane questions about a lot of things that I just don't understand, but it's so fascinating to me.
Well, thank you for having us. I really appreciate you and Jason helping out with this episode of My Right Stuff in our health month. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Do you suffer from insomnia, depression, anxiety? Well, our sponsor, TAUMMHOMS, may be able to help you in these areas. TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal, helping people globally get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. And you can find this piece of gold at TAUMMHOMS.com. That's TAUMMHOMS.com. Well, a big thank you to all of you who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. And please keep spreading the word, my friends. We really, really do appreciate it. Also, we now have a My Right Stuff store where you can pick up some snazzy merch for those bodies. Go to myrightstuff.com and click on the store tab. Well, and please don't forget to tag us in any photos with our merch so we can include you in an episode. Pretty funny when that happens. And please be sure to subscribe to the podcast channel of your choice, as well as our YouTube channel. I hear it'll also give you 10 years good luck. Really? Well, ring that bell. Anyway, this has been another informative and insightful episode of My Right Stuff. On the next episode of our health and wellness series, our guest will be spiritual, inspirational, and community guidance leader, Veronica Conway. So be sure to tune in for that one next week and every week for another brand new adventure on My Right Stuff. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright, and remember to listen loud, play hard, and keep reaching for your dreams. Good night.
Thank you for watching My Right Stuff. This episode was brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taumms.com. That's www.taummmhoms.com.